Hello and welcome in to the October 30th edition of Wildly Informed. Brett Marshall, Isha Jerome here with you with another episode. Before we begin, quick shout out to my brother and his wife, their third anniversary today. So happy happy anniversary shout out to them. Or is it 2 years? I think it might be 2 years. The years blend together, but it's an anniversary today. So happy anniversary to them. But we got a lot to get to today. The Wild still playing some pretty good hockey. We'll talk. This show will seem a little more negative despite that, but it'll have a reason. You'll see when we get there. Before we get into all that, gotta check in with Isha. How you doing tonight, man?
Good, man. It's the spooky episode. What are you being for Halloween? Or do you have any Halloween plans other than just hand out candy?
I don't. So we'll even see if we hand out candy. Years past, we're in like a townhome neighborhood, and there just hasn't been kids. Like the last 2 years, there hasn't been trick or treaters.
Everybody is saying that. Like my parents in Canada are saying that like it's just dying. It's just dying down, and I think more and more families are like going to like malls or like community center events and things like that.
Yeah,
because they can go earlier. They don't have to go out at night, and
we also just like the neighborhood just old people, so there's not a lot of kids in this particular neighborhood.
True, but you know what, Brett? When I was a kid, we used to get our parents to drive us to those neighborhoods because we knew they had the good shit.
Yeah,
like I don't know. Do you guys have Mr. Big here in the States?
Mm-mm.
Okay, well, it's basically like a big O Henry that's like a foot long, and like always the older communities, townhouse communities, or even like retirement communities, they always had they would go the extra mile in spoiling the kids with the candy. So
yeah,
but anyways, a different time.
Yeah, we bought a bag just in case. We bought a huge bag of gummy bears. So like I think they're little mini packs, like 5. So we're like, if any kid shows up, he's getting like 2 handfuls of gummy bears.
Oh yeah,
so.
Nice.
If you're in Eden Prairie near the mall, come on over.
There you go. We bought 4 bags. Roommate ate 1 to himself already, and we had to hide the rest.
Yeah.
Oh man. But anyways, yes. Happy Halloween to everybody who's listening to this on Halloween. Hope you're enjoying your October. I mean, my goodness, man, it's been a warm. It has not only been a heater for the Minnesota Wild, it's been a heater for us here as well. I mean, today was a little chilly, but like back-to-back days in the 70s, man, I was like.
We got to be careful what we wish for, though, because allegedly it could snow overnight into tomorrow. So, and then it's going
to today was cold, but I'm not complaining that I was able to go for a little jog last night still in shorts.
Well, it's 80 on Monday, and then it's going to snow Thursday. Like, if that's not a description of fall in Minnesota, I'm not really sure what it is.
Yeah. Hey, I mean, being the resident Canadian here on, or the Canadian representative here on the Sota Pod network, I know that very well. But we got a big show. What do we got planned for everybody listening here today?
Yeah, analytics. We're going to go over something really simple called PDO. We'll talk a little bit about some trending topics on Twitter right now. One of those being like, the hell's going on in Iowa? And then for our analytics segment, we're going to talk a little bit about the Wild's 5v5 offense, which of course played a little bit better last night after I wrote everything out. So contingent on that. We'll talk a little bit about Hartman and Freddie Goudreau, what happens when they return, and maybe see if we have time for anything else. But that's kind of what we got going on tonight. Should be cool.
All right, well, let's get to our first segment of the show here, ladies and gentlemen, the analytics agenda.
All right, so today we are going to talk PDO, which actually is an acronym that means nothing. It's like more or less an advanced stat, but it's not one that's super hard to understand. It's basically just the sum of a player's on-ice shooting percentage and his on-ice save percentage, and then you can multiply it by 10 to get a percentage if you want. So generally speaking, like PDO for like the average player usually should fall right around like 1 or 100 if you're going in percentages, because you usually assume like most goalies are going to be about a 90% save percentage, and that most players, when they're on the ice, their team is going to shoot at about a 10, which if you do the math is about 10% of the time. So that's kind of where the number comes from. Some people might look at PDO and think of it as kind of like the puck luck stat. Like if there's ever that guy that'd be like, man, it seems like that guy's really lucky or really unlucky. Like that's where PDO can kind of come in. a luckier quote unquote player might have a higher PDO, meaning their team just scores more, or maybe the goalie just stands on his head for whatever reason when that player is out there. Those types of things. But the other thing is like we talk a lot about like expected goals. I think it was last week we went kind of through those applications. Like PDO is kind of something that can kind of like trigger you into like the good finishers, bad finishers, or if like that's why if you're talking like, hey, this guy's a -10 this year. Well, hey, if you look at his PDO, his goalies are making 82% of the saves and his team's shooting at like 4%, but his expected goals is like 54%. Like in that situation, it's probably fair to say like, hey, that defenseman's actually not playing that bad. His goalie can't make a freaking save. It's kind of, you could boil it down to. Then the flip side, it's like, oh, this guy's like an offensive god. Like this team's unstoppable offensively. Is that all they do is score? Well, it's, if they're scoring on, let's throw out a number, let's say like 18.5% for whatever reason. Their PDO is probably going to be like well over 100% or over 1.
Right.
It's because it might be getting lucky, but it could be like in like cases like Kaprizov, just a good finisher, typically shoots higher than 10%, that kind of thing. So it's a good like first stat to kind of look at and then be like, all right, so he has a good or bad PDO. Let's look at the next level. Like what's the next step? So like, well, why is he not getting a good PDO or whatever? So yeah, a lot of the Wild players right now have really high PDOs. Like the entire top 6, I think, is like 110% or something or higher, largely due to Gustafsson having played really well lately and making a lot of saves. And then the team is shooting, as I mentioned, it's somewhere between like 8. This might even be better after last night, but it's something like 18 or 19% right now. So we'll get into that in a little bit though.
Unbelievable. Well, there you go, guys. There you go. The down low on PDO.
Ooh,
before we get into the puck your opinions though, we got to talk a little bit about Iowa.
Yeah, and I'm sure they'll already have or will or probably will all season on Judd's Buds, but like it's alarming like how bad this team looks. 1-6-1 at the, I think it might even be, I don't know if they've played a game since I put this outline together, but 1-6-1 to start the year. They have the league leading 36 goals against in those 8 games. The second worst in the league for reference is only given up 28. So 8 more goals in the next team. Like all these vets that they added, 1 to be like better players and provide kind of more stability in Iowa, and 2 to provide the Wild like bottom 6 depth. Like Gauntz has been okay. He's got 6 points.
I was like, Gauntz is going to put up points in the AHL. Like I know Brandon, being a Vancouver guy, I know Brandon Gauntz, former first rounder for the Canucks. And like, he is what he is at the AHL level. He's not going to be like a world beater. He will look fine. He can play a call up game in the National Hockey League and fill in a spot, and he can score, but he's not going to like take the game into his own hands at any point and like be the guy to carry you.
Yeah, so he's kind of leading the team in points right now with 6, but he's a -10. Shore, who's played a decent amount of hockey in the NHL, 3 assists, he's a -12. Travis Boyd, again, another guy with a decent amount of NHL experience, 4 points and a -8. And then Ben Jones, 2 points and a -7. Like these were supposed to be like the super impact players. Like Hunter Haight's got 4 points, but I think 3 of those were hat trick games. So like the other 7 games, he's got 1 point. We haven't seen as much probably from guys like Lambos and Hunt.
Well, even Sammy Walker, like I expect more from him at this stage.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, was it a couple seasons ago, absolutely dominating, last year still leading the team? Mm-hmm. Like, what's going on right now? Maybe a little bit in a minute cut there. I mean, I imagine Gaunt's one of the reasons why he's also -10 and putting on points because he's out there a lot.
Right.
Z talked about that on our big prospect ranking shows in respect to O'Rourke, who one of the reasons why he was like a crazy minus and his stats weren't even the underlying stats weren't that great. It's because like he was just eating 30 plus minutes and basically a team saying, no, you're not going to move the puck out of zone. You're going to play tight defense and basically on you this whole season. Sorry about your stats. And his agent wasn't too happy about that either. But anyways, it is definitely concerning. And I mean, like, I wanted to see a little bit more from Sop. I mean, Bankier only with 1 point as well. I mean,
yeah, and Bankier was surprised too because he had a really good preseason. Like, he played well for the Wild. Like, he played. I just thought he'd been playing some really good hockey. So like, to only see him there with whatever he is. It's just the 1 goal, I think. Yeah, it's a 1 assist.
Or 1 assist, yeah, 1 assist.
Yeah, like that's a little bit surprising.
Man. And I mean, and as a result also, and I saw people were going I don't want to say going at you, but definitely conversing with you on Twitter, talking about, well, Jesper Wallstedt, and people saying, is it it's too early for the extension, or like, why is the Wild praising this guy so much? He's looked awful to start the season. Well, the whole team has looked awful, and a goalie can win you some games, but he's not going to be your shining star. I mean, a great example, look at Blomqvist for the Pittsburgh Penguins. Outstanding performance. Still lost, still gave up a lot of goals. So obviously it's not going to reflect well on the stat sheet.
Yeah, well, especially in like his case, like we're talking like guys are like just throwing pucks in front of the net, like on the penalty kill, like tons of odd man rushes, breakaways. Like it's not like Wallstedt is giving up like flip wristers from the blue line with no one in front of him. Like these aren't like weak, soft goals. Like there's been a couple, like all goalies are going to have those, but like it's just alarming because you look at kind of like the Iowa Wild as a whole, like even beyond this year, like even back in kind of the Tim Army days, like the only players that have really like made significant impact that played in Iowa are Duer and Duhaime, who are, at best fourth liners and have now been traded out of the organization. And then obviously Marco Rossi, who came in, got a pretty good sizable cup of coffee in the NHL, goes back to AHL, dominates, and now is back up playing on the first line. But like aside from those three, like all the other players that have come in and made impacts have played in like the NCAA or the KHL, the SHL, like what have you. Like, and this was brought up by Russo in an Athletic article, and I thought it was just kind of like a holy shit. Is kind of like a wake up call here. Like Brock Faber, NCAA, Marat Khusnutdinov, Pro Kaprizov, KHL, Boley came out of the NCAA. Liam Ogren coming out of the SHL, like all their players that are in the lineup that are like these young stars, these rookies, like spent little to no time in the AHL, and all these guys that have been down there now for 2-3 years, like I don't want to say like haven't made it, but it just feel like they haven't grown, like they haven't taken that next step. And at some point you're like, I think you have to wonder, like Brett McLean didn't really succeed as an assistant coach in the NHL and doesn't really seem like he's up to the task of training guys in the AHL either to kind of develop. Like that's got to be such a huge point.
Yeah, and I don't think Matt Hendricks is going to mess around this year. I don't think he's going to allow this to play out to make it look like last year. I think, give it another, what are we at now, 8 games? Another 8 to 10 games, and I feel like there's going to be some changes, right? Because Billy Guerin's given him a lot of, basically the reins down there. Him and his, is obviously part of the management group and his team down there, but he is really one of the guys calling the shots. He had a great interview with Hoppy and Joe on last week's episode of Fellowship of the Rink. I highly recommend you guys go check that out. And I liked some of like the player personnel moves over the offseason.
Yeah.
Clearly not working out right now. So you got to think, okay, well, like there's guys there who've proven at, different levels that they got the talent, and shoot, even some guys who proved themselves at the AHL level who aren't doing it here. So you got to imagine, like, is it something that's going on with the Iowa Wild as far as the coaches, as far as the trainers, as far as just like the system of development down there? And I think that's what we have to be looking at right now versus just blaming the players again.
Well, yeah, too. And you look at this is going to be a team that I think as they kind of come out of the buyouts, like they're going to be paying like top heavy on probably the high end players. Like there's going to be a lot of money tied up in Kaprizov and Boldy, and the way Rossi's playing, potentially Rossi, and you have obviously a bunch of money in Brock Faber. Like you're going to need guys that can come in and play for cheap, and you'd hope that can be these, these rookie players and guys on cheap entry level contracts. But if they just continue to do nothing in the AHL and can't develop, and if they become career AHLers, it doesn't do you much good for your age or for your NHL team. So, we saw some of this last year too with the slow start, but obviously last year, like almost immediately it was like Mason Shaw had to be called up. And then, it was Dakota Mermis, and the like Jesper Wallstedt bounced up and down a little bit to start the year. Like they had players.
And it was a young crop.
Yeah.
In addition to that, right? Whereas this year it's like, there's not really an excuse. There's not really a built-in excuse.
Yeah. There was like 5 rookies in the blue line or whatever it was, or 4 at any given time. And it's like, nope. Now like that, the Wild haven't, I think they've maybe called Damon Hunt up a handful of times, but like, aside from him, no one else is being shuttled up and down. Like the roster's not changing. Like is it a coach thing? Is it a personnel thing? Like with the players that they have that they added, like to me, it screams the coaching issue. And, we know Guerin.
The culture seems fine. Cause I mean, like I said, I edit and produce Joe Smith and Hoppy's show, Fellowship of the Rink, and when they were talking to a lot of the prospects in the system in the AHL last year, like they had nothing but good things to say. And I know obviously like you're going to say that on an interview, but there wasn't anything that would suggest to me that they weren't just loving their group. And you can love your group, you can love the culture, but like if it's not going to translate onto the ice, like changes have to be made regardless.
Yeah. So, there's no rumors out there yet that like McLean's on the hot seat or anything. But I mean, even like beyond like the players and the organization, like Des Moines' got a passionate fan base. Like for an AHL team, like those fans are really invested. Like I know there are Wild fans that'll sometimes make road trips down there to watch. Like it's obviously exciting when you got prospects playing and things like that. So like I think just as much of the players and organizations as you do the fans. So
absolutely.
The seat may not be hot yet, but it is warming up, I think, quickly. So if Iowa can't right the ship, I mean, it's not a common conversation to have about the AHL coach, but you got to be a little bit worried.
Anthony V, thank God Riley Height couldn't go to Iowa. Keep an eye on Iowa. Honestly, as much as I was going full like,
yeah. Because now instead he can go like dominate on a good team, get lots of ice time, and not
just got his 300th point in the WHL. How are you?
Like you can argue like what's the benefit of playing against people that aren't even close to your skill level, but hey, at least your confidence is staying high. Like can't say that for some of those other guys. So
no, that's true. That's true. God, I just wish Team Canada would get their fucking head out their ass and send them to World Juniors. But I mean, maybe he just plays into that role because he leaves them with no choice. But I mean, it's Hockey Canada, and we could go on and on and on. Both with on the ice and off the ice decisions. But anyways, which I've been tracking that the whole trial and everything. And Seth and I talked about it on one of the last Sota Pod episodes. Once we get another big update from Rick Westhead, we're going to do a big deep dive there.
Yeah, Rick, he is such a fantastic, like investigative.
Dude, he is awesome. And like, I don't get why people on social media go at it. Even some people like that I'm like tight with in hockey Twitter, like have blocked him or they blocked him. They have these like, I'm just like, it's Rick Westhead. He's just reporting news. Like, why are, like there's some other figures in the hockey world where it's like, yeah, I could see why, a clash of opinions, but like this guy's a reporter.
Frank Saravalli, for example.
Frank Saravalli, Gord Miller, right? Yeah. Like, whether you agree with some of his takes or not, like I can understand where there could be a divide, but like Rick Westhead is just reporting the news. He's literally given no opinion to his pieces at all. Yeah. And it's just like people are coming after him. I don't know. Like he reported on like a crazy story that in like a junior B team in Nanaimo earlier this year as well. It's like he's on all the stories and not just hockey too, which is pretty cool.
And I imagine there's a lot of like, because of like maybe outside the hockey sphere, but like just the appreciation for the reporting. And I think that's, how he gets a lot of these like kind of jaw-dropping scoops on just the different scandals and whatever else is going on, because like, hey, he's built the trust that he is going to report it honestly and truthfully. And so side tangent, but yeah, I always like, he's a great follow because like, unfortunately it's a lot of like sad news.
Yeah.
Sad and bad, but it's good to stay informed and,
yeah. No, he's one of the best things he's one of the best people still working for TSN right now. And it's not even close. Before we move on to Puck Your Opinions, Keith Williams. What's up, Keith? What are the chances the other teams have better players, especially if our top prospects aren't there? Well, there's certainly that, case as well.
I don't think it's not a 1-6-1 getting your ass kicked every night better. Especially when you're adding these veterans who like, there are veterans who will be good as teams' top prospects just because they're used to the skill level, the pace, they've been around, they've done it. Like they're getting their ass kicked. Like 18 goals for like a little more middle of the pack, but just like defensively, they're a mess. Which is like also you look at it like when you compare like that to the big club, like a team that preaches defense and responsibility, like what's changed. Like McLean's seen that, been a part of it. Like even though it was more of a Dean Evison system, like John Hines has employed a similar strategy with the players that he has, like to play a little more defensive.
Yeah, no,
we just haven't seen that.
And look, they're not the only ones in the league with one win, but it's not like the division's crazy anyways. Oh man, poor oh my god. Oh, poor Beckman. Yeah, at least he's playing well.
He's got what, 2 games?
0-6 for the Utica Comets in their first 6 games. So at least we ain't Utica.
We got one.
Would you want to hear something crazy? Utica used to be Vancouver's farm team, and they couldn't even bring guys in quick enough for relief because it would take them a whole day to travel.
Yeah, it was a long ways. Like that was always weird. Like when these teams have like minor league affiliates that are like forever away. Like when the Wild had the affiliate in Houston, like that's a trek. That's a 4-hour flight.
So Vancouver's argument was they're one of the I think they're still the team that travels the most in the league, and so they're like, we're usually halfway across country or on the east side anyways on road trips, so like, we'll be able to bring them over easily. But like, when they're in Abbotsford, it's like Abbotsford's closer to Vancouver than St. Cloud is to the cities. Like it's damn close. So it's like literally just drive to the rink or send a shuttle or something like that. But anyways, all right, let's get to our next segment here. Puck, your opinion.
I just want to say, Puck, your opinion.
I don't know. I made that. It makes me laugh every time. All right, what do we got here today, Brett?
So it hasn't been controversial so far because, like, I think there's obviously a lot of rightful praise of how well that the Wild have played this year. They've obviously got one regulation loss and 6-1-2, I think, now for their first 9 games. Obviously, super, super respectable. Like, they're playing good defense. They've scored that as of this moment in time, they're 10th in the league or tied for 9th in the league in goals scored. Like, it seems like things are going really well, and for the most part that they are. But on
the road during that crazy road trip to start the season, that cannot be overlooked, right?
Yeah. So, and we've seen, I think, the crack show a little bit in some of these past couple games. But the thing I want to specifically talk about is the Wild's 5v5 offense, because it's been playing pretty well. But I think there's some things that are if you dig into the numbers a little bit deeper, they're I'm a little worried about this. So this was prior to last night. So these numbers have changed a little bit. So this doesn't include the Pittsburgh game. But prior to last night, they'd only generated 13.62 expected goals. That was 31st in the NHL. But they'd scored 19 goals, which I think at the time was 11th. So now they're obviously up to 24 or 23. But however many, I don't know how many of those are at 5-on-5, but clearly showing that hey, the amount that they've shot is not their expected goals is a lot lower than their actual goals, meaning there's probably some crazy finishing going on, and that has been the case. So again, prior to last night, Drew Eriksson was shooting at 25%, Rossi at 23%, Zuccarello at 22%, Kaprizov at 18.2%, Boldy at 13.8%. The only one in the top 6 that wasn't shooting above their career shooting percentage was Johansson, who's actually a little bit under. But all these guys that were this isn't the only one that's Boldy and Kaprizov are kind of on par with their career averages. Those other guys are basically doubled what they usually are shooting. So my concern is just eventually that's going to regress kind of back more to their average. And we've seen prior to last night, the bottom 6 is not going to win you a lot of games with offense.
Yeah, they're not going to score. They're going to keep the games tight, and they're going to shut down the other team. They're going to drag out the games. But if one or the first 2 lines aren't going, it's just that. It's just back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Wild either taking the puck in the neutral zone, sending it back down. Wild breaking up the play from their opponent in their own zone, getting it back through the neutral zone, or just bringing it. They've done such a good job in their zone entries too. But that's the thing. From what I've seen, Brett, is if the second line isn't going and the first line is being shut down, and when I say loosely, Kaprizov's still weaving through 3 fucking guys every night. It's absolutely insane. But you know what I mean? When the first line is, when they're really hammering down in that first line, and the second line just can't pick up any of that, there's got to be a better word than slack, but for lack of a better word, slack, then it's tough. The Wild will still be winning. And I even said that in Pittsburgh Penguins game. I was pleasantly surprised and happy that the Wild are going into a second period leading in shots, because that's usually not the case, even if they're up in goals.
Yeah, I tweeted that out after last night that they had 40 shots last night. They only did that 4 times all of last season. Haven't done it yet this season. So
I think it was 19 going into the second period, something like that. 18 or 19, which was again, that's insane for the Minnesota Wild last year or this year, given their lineups right now.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, like, I wouldn't be as worried about it if, like, even their XG share was a little bit higher. Because, like I said, they've played really good defense. Like we talked last week, like they are pretty much like the league best in like every defensive metric. But like, despite playing the best defense in the league, they have an expected goal share under 50% because they literally are like, they are doing nothing at 5-on-5. They're 17th in expected goal share. Again, prior to last night, so this could have changed since then, but last night actually probably made it a little worse because I'm pretty sure they were out chance at 5-on-5. They're 24th in shots, 30th in unblocked attempts, 28th in high danger chances. Like if you get a team that like the game in Winnipeg, which obviously is a game they did get pretty badly outplayed, granted on the second of back-to-back, you could make the argument there, but like a team that has that Adam Lowry line that can shut down one of your top lines, they did that, and then it resulted in the Wild getting pretty badly outplayed, losing. Like I think that's the formula, like you said. If one or both of those lines has an off night, like I don't think they can win every game 2-1. Like I just don't.
Unless Freddie Gaudreau renews his friggin' Russian gas subscription. My God.
Yeah. So like it's just like I don't want to like say the team is gonna like all of a sudden go on like a drastic losing streak, but I think they're just and hopefully like the game last night could be a building block. Like I literally said, like they didn't like they had 40 shots. They only I think racked up. I think it was still under 3 expected goals. So it wasn't a lot of necessarily like high quality shots, but I think just the idea of getting the puck on net, you allow yourself to, get in there in the forecheck, sustain a little bit of zone time, some pressure, just allow you to wear teams down the way, get them tired out. And then those dangerous chances will come as you get the other team tired out. You'll draw more penalties, those types of things. So I just want to see a little bit more concerted effort, get the puck on net, spend a little more time on the forecheck. And then especially more of what we saw last night with some offensive contributions from the bottom 6, which 3 goals last night was good to see, 2 from Freddie, who we'll talk about next year.
Yeah. I guess my last thing before we talk about Freddie is it's a little bit of a jab, but it's a playful jab at those who follow the Sota pod. And look, I am the biggest Marat supporter. If you guys watched or listened to our prospect rankings,
yeah,
you were
always the highest on him.
I was waving the Marat flag there. But those who were like, oh, he should be the top center on this team. Look, man, the 3rd/4th line, whatever you want to deem them, because they're pretty much the same. They've had opportunities against easier matchups. He ain't scoring like a top center. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I feel like a lot of us knew what his role would be. Would I like to see a little bit more offense? Sure. And on the positive swing of that, him and
Lauko.
I mean, Lauko and even Ogren, they've started to develop some chemistry. Now, obviously, Ogren still developing a little bit at this stage. Doesn't look as comfortable on the NHL stage yet. But dude, Lauko and Khusnutdinov, they're both so quick. Lauko's speed is amazing. Like this guy's a forechecking machine. And I love how they're I've been seeing some, and this is very much like eye tests. I've been seeing some like, almost like they're building enough chemistry where they're in sync most of the night anyways. And maybe some offense starts to come from that. I don't know how good of a finisher anybody on that line is other than Ogren, but again, right now, still a little bit of a slow burn. But I will say, like, the third line, I've liked Foligno, I've liked Freddie and Trennan as well. But yeah, something about that Lauko and Khusnutdinov pairing, like it excites me when they're on the ice because they're loud, active, and quick. And easy matchup or not, I would like to see the offense there a little bit more, but at least, and again, not high scoring chances or high danger chances per se. But we saw in Pittsburgh, like when Lauko can have a successful forecheck and Khusnutdinov's there, like they're going to cycle a little bit, at least get a shot on net.
Yeah, I think like that line is played well defensively, but just been like their offense it seems to come like because of the speed, like it'll be Lauko and Khusnutdinov, like a quick rush the other way, and it's kind of like one shot, one attempt, and then it's kind of done. Like I think like, okay, we have the counterattack down. Now how do we sustain that a little bit? Like how do we counterattack, get the shot, and then how do we hold the zone a little bit longer? How do we get the D involved? How do we get 1 to 2 more pucks on net? So I think like you said, to your point, I think getting the defense down first, because obviously like with a fourth, your third and fourth line, like they're not told to hop over the boards and score a goal every night. Like that's not their job. If they can, great. Their job is to hop over the board, slow the other team down, try to find ways to shift momentum, those types of things. And I think they've done that part well so far. It's now can they continue that development and that role building that they have to get the offense going next?
Yeah, absolutely. I know we talked about it a little bit there, but just to summarize, what do you think is attributing to their high percentage?
It's tough to say. Being on the power play has helped a little bit. They've had a couple of plays where, they just get guys open. But I mean, you look at last night, like the goal that Lauko scored, like if he shoots that puck 100 times from that same spot with the goalie in the same position, I don't know if it goes in again. Like they've got
that was beautiful.
They've got a couple of empty netters, which will inflate that a little bit too, obviously. But there's a couple of things here that can inflate it into, like I said, like sometimes expected goal models about 75 to 80% accurate. So there could be a tighter difference between their actual and expected than what shows. But I mean, goals are cyclical too. So like getting back to the shooting percentage angle, like there's going to be times where a player might score like 10 goals in 10 games, and then you might not score for 4 games. Like,
yeah.
But over that stretch, like in that 14 game stretch, it's all going to probably average out to his like actual shooting percentage, but it's going to come in spurts. It's not going to be a flat line where they're always going to shoot. Like Kaprizov's a career, whatever, 16% shooter. He's not going to shoot at 16% every single game that he plays in it. It's going to bounce around, and it's also high right now because we have a 9-game sample size. So
yeah,
one big game where you get 10 shots on goal, or one bad game where only have 1 shot, like all that can skew in either direction too.
All right, let's talk about Hartman's return and how that may or may not shake up the lineup too much. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting because, obviously, like I campaigned for the start of the year, like, hey, this guy should maybe start as the 1C. And now I'm going to like completely flip on that and be like, not only should he not be playing center, he should be on the 4th line, right wing. When he comes,
which will add maybe some more scoring than what Ogren has been able to provide. So
yeah, so that's part of the reason why it's like kind of twofold. So like starting with that 4th line, we just talked about, the ability for Marat, Khusnutdinov, and Jacob Lauko to kind of like counterattack. They bring a lot of speed, a lot of energy, but they've struggled to kind of bring offense a little bit. And as we talked when we were talking about why I wanted Hartman on the first line, is because that's what he does bring. Like you get those other 2 guys that bring the defense. He's the guy that can bring the offense. A shoot first type of player, like typically has had respectable expected goals numbers. Like, and now you have this balance where if you keep Freddie on the 3rd line, we'll talk about why that works really well here in a second. But if you talk about like, now you have a shutdown 3rd line, and now you almost have this like forechecking energy, like 4th line, which has enough skill where you can maybe deploy those 2 lines as more as like a 3A, 3B type of situation. And I think, it'd be interesting for me to see like, hey, let's put Hartman on that line. Let's give each of these lines, 9 minutes of 5v5 time a game, special teams aside, like give these guys more opportunities and give these a chance to spread that scoring beyond the top 6. Because I've just talked about that's been an issue. So how do you get more scoring in there? Well, maybe you get Hartman in a position where he's playing with 2 guys that are speedy, skilled, and maybe get a little bit of a forecheck going, capitalize on those counterattacks.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, as much as I want to see Ogren develop in the league, I mean, he's going to be the guy out. He's going to likely go back down and hopefully save Iowa.
Yeah, and I think we've seen too, like obviously early in the year, like we were campaigning for Ogren to be on that 2nd line wing spot where Johansson's been playing, but like not to say Johansson's been like out of the water amazing, but like they've had there's obviously clearly some chemistry there with Boldy and Eck. Like they've had some really pretty tic-tac-toe plays, and like he hasn't been a liability. I don't feel like he's impeded the ability for that line to do anything. Like he's looked a little bit more of like trade deadline version of Marcus Johansson than kind of like the version we saw last year, which was kind of like, all right, this guy doesn't really, he's kind of a cardio king. He's not contributing much. Like it doesn't feel to me as much of the case this year as it did last year. Yeah,
no, I think he's fit in great. And obviously, like if you have a better player that you could put on that 2nd line, then sure, he's gonna be the replacement. And hopefully we see one of those next season, or depending on where the Wild are at around trade deadline, maybe there'll be some more questions answered then if they're just going to roll with him throughout their playoff push, if they are in the mix, and then just say goodbye, sign somewhere else, good season, go make your money somewhere else. Or if they're like teetering on the edge of playoffs or don't think they're going to make it, then like, yeah, dude, trade him for whatever you can get at this point, because his value should still be decently high. And like, and even if he was playing at like a 35-point pace, like he's so many people love themselves a little Johansson at the trade deadline.
Yeah, I think we said like if he can be like a 15-25 guy this year, like 40 points, like that's fine. That's what he should be. But
that's what he is. Yeah, that's his ceiling. Let's be honest.
And I don't know what he's pacing for, but it's probably a number that's not too far off of that. Because I think it's a goal and is it 2 assists?
What is he at now?
I think it's a goal
3 points and a
1
goal.
and 2, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So through 9 games, so multiply those by 9 and be on pace for like 10 and 20, so like 30-ish points right now. But I think
it's going to go up a little bit for sure, because they've had chances. Just I don't know. He wasn't the greatest in the Pittsburgh game, but like it's not like the second line wasn't horrendous. But I mean, yeah, he's a 30. I don't even think he's hit 40 points, or no, he's at 30 to 40 point 58 that 1 year. That's right. But I always say this, especially with his time with the Capitals, he was very much sheltered on that third line, whereas like the first 2 lines got the big matchups. It was Backstrom and Ovi, whether they were together or separated. Then Johansson was on that third line, just kind of like, all right, sweet. I get to just skate circles around whoever else this team is putting out on the opposite side, because I ain't shutting it top lines down.
Yeah. So speaking of shutting down top lines. Great transition here. So obviously, like if Hartman comes back, like the reason I think even bigger than him potentially helping bring some offense to the fourth line is just like this third line right now with Trennan, Gaudreau, and Foligno has played so like incredibly well.
Yeah.
Like coming into last night, these numbers were like really jaw dropping, but they weren't as good last night. Gave up their first goal of the season, but like you look at what they've done. So they have exactly 45 minutes time on ice together. Most of that coming across the last 4 games. In that stretch, out attempting opponents 40 to 35, more on block shot attempts 25-23, outshot them 18 to 17, 3-1 goal advantage. They've only allowed 0.85 expected goals against, which is like an absurd number. Like that's not their rate. That's what they've allowed through 45 minutes. Like that's very, very good. That's largely in part due to just the amount of dangerous chances they're limiting. Only 3 high danger chances all season when those 3 are on the ice for the other opponent at 5-on-5, like 3. And that's not even high danger shots. That's just the high danger chances. So like
that's amazing.
Not even guaranteeing those have got on net. So like a lot of times watching them, like it does feel a little bit like you're watching, that quote unquote like boring hockey, but it's because that's what they go out there and do. Like they're gonna just forecheck the crap out of you. They're gonna keep all play inside the D zone to the outside. They're gonna break it out. They might chip it over the red line, go off and get it changed. But
and Foligno's going to hit everything that moves.
Yeah. And I think like Trennan, I think we've seen I think we talked last week before, like, it's been kind of a slow start. He to me's looked much better.
I was just going to say, even like his foot speed, like in the last 3 games, like, okay, slow start. Guy wasn't, he didn't have a good chair at home eating dinner on his suitcase. And I'm going to say that that's the reason why his legs were left. I don't know. I don't fucking know what it was. Maybe just started the season a little slow there. Moved to Minnesota. Maybe didn't have the best offseason. I don't know what it is, but it seems like he's found his legs under him. He's found his skates under him. And Foligno has not lost a beat this year. I was scared that this year, like we might see a little bit of just straight up like a visual regression and maybe just like speed and tenacity. Nope. A healthy Foligno is still a dominant Marcus Foligno for what he brings to a team. And I've really liked that he's been able to, not that line is like blazing speed or has blazing speed, but like not only kept up, but he's helped like set the pace as well, which is promising. Cause like he was one out of the 3 extensions last year. He was the one that I was like, I love Marcus Foligno. I love Moose, but like, that's the one that I'm like, oh, the 2 out of 3 I could stomach, but that one's tough. Well, you know what? Grand scheme of things, still don't like all 3 extensions at once, but like right now, okay, I'm stomaching it, and it's fine.
Yeah, and I will say, like on the flip side, like it's not that Hartman was bad in that spot. Smaller sample size, about 20 minutes together, but also looking about a 65 expected goal share. 2 high danger chances against. They just hadn't scored yet. It was no goals, 4-1 against. So like it doesn't seem to matter. Like, I think Marat Khusnutdinov, cup of coffee there as well. Let's take a look at those numbers too, just because I'm curious that I brought it up. Yeah, not quite as good there. 41% expected goals share with Marat there. So, and we talked about that last week, how we think that's just more of like Marat's got real good chemistry with Lacko, and breaking that up. So I think both are good options, but it just seems like, I don't know, something when Freddie's been on that line, like for whatever reason, even though I think of Freddie more as the defensive guy and Hartman more as the offensive guy, like there seems to be a little bit more of an established forecheck. Like maybe it's just the speed that he's able to bring, or maybe he's I haven't watched a ton of the forecheck. Maybe he's the third guy high, and where maybe Hartman likes to get into the zone and get into it and have three guys low. Maybe it's something with Freddie, maybe being a little more willing to stay high and open up some more opportunities with a guy high in the zone. But so I think both options are good, but it was good to see Freddie get on the score sheet, because like, I'll admit, like I've been hard on Freddie. Like this is a weird show for me, because I've said good things about both Johansson and Gaudreau. Like these are guys.
I'm going to be clipping these and saving them on the hard drive.
Yeah. But like it wasn't unwarranted. Right? These guys didn't play as well last year, and for Freddie, like the points prior to last night hadn't come yet, but I thought he was playing like really good hockey. Yeah, like there was just lots of good plays. Like his speed was evident, all that stuff, and it was like I think obviously last year was tough on him with that weird kind of injury he had from like the Winnipeg game really early it was Toronto, when he got hit by Reeves when they were overseas. Like he never seemed right from that point on. And obviously like Dean Evison was a guy he looked up to, had really good chemistry with. So like human beings were emotional. Like if you and your best friend worked at the same job, and your best friend, or you're like the boss you really liked left, and a new one came in and didn't look at you the same, like that's going to affect you. Like whether or not you think it should, it probably does. So it's been great to see him kind of bounce back. It was great to see him get rewarded for it last night. And, it gives me a little more optimism seeing what those lines kind of did last night. Kind of what we talked at the beginning of the show, like, hey, the bottom six got to be a little bit better. And like, he's part of the reason I'm starting to feel a little bit better about it.
Are we almost asking too much from the bottom six at this point? As far as like, because they're playing, like, they're doing their job, but it's more so just like, is it picking up slack? Like, are we being too hard on them offensively, or is it like, no, they dominant NHL teams get that secondary third scoring from the bottom six, and we need to see it a little bit more?
Yeah, for me, it's like last night was great. Obviously, they get 3 goals, but to me, if they had a game like last night and didn't score those goals, I still would have thought it was a better game.
Yeah,
like, They did a little more of the things. They spent a little more time in the offensive zone. Like I want to defend with offense versus defending with good defense, if that makes sense.
Right. Yeah.
Like they're good at the latter, not so much at the former. But yeah. So, and I think it's there's some obviously like that's a pretty much totally brand new bottom six. Like Marat obviously played a little bit last year. Gaudreau hurt in and out. Like oftentimes was playing with Shaw and Lucchini and Lettieri and whoever else. Like there's obviously probably a little bit of time to get acclimated, get the chemistry down, figure things out. And I think we're slowly starting to see that come to play. And I think the little bit more offense is going to come with that. Like that's all I'm not saying a ton more, just a little bit more.
Yeah, no, I agree. Another thing that is positive, kind of, I guess, is that the Wild have already faced some injuries, and their depth in their NHL lineup has been able to patch those holes and continue to play good hockey. And again, on the road to start the season. And I think that is something very important to note. If we don't have to keep, we already talked about Iowa, but like if they don't have to dig into Iowa often and know that like they got a reliable group up here with guys that they can dress and reshake up the lineups and it's going to work, then that's a good thing, because the injuries aren't going to stop all year. This is the National Hockey League.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think like obviously like big on the blue line, like we talked last week about like Jake Middleton being able to step up and eat minutes alongside Brock Faber.
He looked good last night too.
Yeah, and like their numbers have gone down a little bit since like it's actually really funny. Like their numbers are holy crap. Their shot attempt share, of course, he is 100. Unblocked shots are 72-72. Actual shots 49-51, and then goals for against 8-2. And then expected goals 3.79, 3.67. So like they're pretty much like 50-50 across the board. But like
that's funny.
Obviously, they're getting a lot of ice time with the Kaprizov line, which is just they're finishing at an unbelievable rate right now. So that's helped a little bit, but just like I didn't realize a ton. Like their numbers are like that's crazy how close they are across the board. But yeah, like he stepped up big. Like obviously we just talked at length about how Freddie Goudreau stepped up, like in Hartman's absence. So like guys that you would hope been able to step up have been. It's been nice to see.
How did you like Spurgeon last night? I thought him and Brodin was the perfect pairing for his slow burn return, I guess. But I thought he played fine.
Yeah, I would say it's a good description. Like I wasn't like wow, like there wasn't like some of those just like classic Jared Spurgeon plays that like make you go like, yep, I remember like all the time why I scream how underrated this guy is. Like there wasn't any of those for me, but like I thought it was better than his first two games where like he and Middleton were like, they got carved up again. Oh, there's another bad shift. Like, he's out of position again. Like I didn't feel like I saw a lot of that. So like,
yeah,
I think
someone in my live chat said like, how is Spurgeon going? And I said, honestly, I haven't noticed him much. And I feel like that's a good thing.
Exactly.
He's doing his job.
That's just what I was about to say. So like, yeah, I'm right there with you. So hopefully like it's a sign of him being able to come back and like, if you can eat minutes with Spurgeon and Brodin and free up Faber maybe to play a little bit in a, give him the go. So yeah, I think like it's good. I mean, they're one player away from being healthy again. So
yeah,
I'm excited. But yeah, it was encouraging, I think, because obviously we talked last week, like, how worried are we? Like, is his career done after this? We don't know, but we hope not.
Yeah. I guess the last thing we have to talk about is the good, the bad, and the ugly of Brock Faber throwing some hands, dropping the mitts. Now, you got to imagine me being the fight guy that, like, on stream, I absolutely lost my shit. But there's layers to this. There's layers to how this whole fight broke out, too. And though I agree with your tweet that Sidney Crosby was being a little bit of a baby back bitch. You didn't say that. That's my words. You said wuss. I'm going to say baby back bitch.
I wanted to say that. I really did, but I was like, exactly. I have enough of respect for Crosby and like the rest of it to call him that.
Well, and this
because I know it would get taken a screenshot and get taken out of context used against me.
No, and hey, I commend you for that. You're a bigger man than me. But put it this way, though it was a baby back bitch move for Crosby to get tangled there with Faber, Crosby hitting him with a few shots, a little cross check, a little pushing and shoving, and then for Crosby to snap his fingers and get a young guy to go and fight him. I will say though, like, dude, if Faber's going off the ice for 5 minutes, potentially 5 minutes, you want to stay on the ice and look. And I feel like Crosby, he planned this whole thing. Crosby was 2 steps ahead because after the power play, look what happened to the Wild. That was the worst 3 minutes of Wild play, I feel like, all season. The defense broke down. Everything broke down, and it was like nonstop pressure. And I'm pretty sure the Pittsburgh Penguins had like somewhere between like 5 and 8 shots on net. Everyone was scrambling without Brock Faber in the lineup. And I get it. He goes out of the lineup. You have to quickly like re-scramble some lines and then like try to keep that momentum and pace, especially off I believe it was a failed power play. They didn't score on the power play there. But all that aside, it still shows how good this kid is and how unbelievably important he is to the team, because he literally is off the ice for 3 minutes and look what happens. Like, it completely fell apart.
Yeah. And like, I don't have a problem with like Sid mixing it up with Faber. Like, he started it by kind of giving him like 2 pot shots while like Faber's kind of down on the ice trying to stand up. And like, you see all the time 2 guys get tangled up and one kind of shoves the other one twice. But it's like, hey, if you're going to sit there and then wrestle with them and then skate away, like, come on, man. Like, you can't start it and not finish. Like, that was Mitchell. It's like Faber was chasing around the ice, Sid didn't want a part of it, and then a guy comes over the board. It's like, no, you started it, we're a part of it, and then we're like, nah. And then like I haven't heard yet, but that guy coming off the bench, like, I'm pretty sure that's like a major no for Department of Player Safety. So I haven't heard if he's got anything yet, but
interesting. I didn't even think about that, to be honest.
Yeah, you're gonna see.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, this was vintage Sid circa like 2005. And again, I don't blame him for it because I feel like he was 2 steps ahead of us and was like, look, we'll kill this power play. Faber's still going to be gone. And we got this. And they look good. They look good there. But no, I long of the short of it, from what I was noticing calling the game and watching the game, was just like, man, like, I get all the caveats that I mentioned. Like, you got to re-scramble the lines quick. You just you weren't able to capitalize on a power play. The other team's gained some momentum, and then they strike. It was just like a perfect storm. But it was like until he was back, they did not recover and get their bearings back, which was just like both like solidified. Like, yeah, dude, this kid is so important to this team, and also Sidney Crosby. God damn it.
Yeah. But yeah, I think like that was probably the one part of the whole game where Spurgeon I didn't think looked great was on that power play.
I was just gonna say.
But part of that is, I mean, that he said probably hasn't taken reps with that group maybe since like the preseason. So
right. Yeah.
I don't totally fault him. They're like, hey, all of a sudden you like jump in on the power play when you haven't played in whatever it was 4 games, and oh by the way, like you also played with these guys in like a month. So
yeah,
you can kind of see why he struggled there a little bit,
But hey, fun to see him drop the mitts. What can't he do? He can score. He can.
Yeah.
And honestly, it wasn't a bad. Like it wasn't. Look, these guys aren't fighters. It wasn't a bad fight considering that like they ain't scrappers. Like there was emotion to it from Faber. Anyways, the other guy was just like, God damn it, Sid, you better be buying me dinner next week or something. Like, or give me a watch or something, dude. Like, oh man. But anyways, Brett, what else? Anything else you want to cover? Do we got anything else?
I just like you just mentioned like how good Faber's been. I just want to see what his expected goal share is, if it's gone down a little bit. Yeah, I think it has now.
Yeah, I think given
it's still pretty good. It's still sitting at 56.9%. So
the crazy thing about him though is I could see him getting like 10 points less than last year and still have a better season. Because I think he's taken a step forward already.
Well, I think his ice time is down. It's like closer, I think like 20 minutes a night. Last year, I think it was like 3 to 4 minutes like higher.
Yeah, it's going down a little bit. There are some nights though. Like I think there was 2 nights where he had like 33 or something. But
yeah, I think there's a couple, but he's been getting less, and I think he's doing more. So like if you adjust for his time on ice, all that stuff. Yeah, he's sitting. If you match like defensemen have played equivalent minutes to him, he's sitting 10th in expected goal share, like playing against the best competition. So somehow Dmitry Kulikov is on that list. Like,
no, I'm gonna puke.
What? How is Dmitry Kulikov have a 58% expected?
Bro, how is Dmitry Kulikov a Stanley Cup champion?
Yeah, also
I have so many questions about Dmitry Kulikov.
It's actually a really interesting list of defensemen that are doing well. Like there's the obvious ones, and then like Gavrikov in LA is like 67%. And then
LA just lost the Sharks. So.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Without Kevin Fiala in the lineup. Speaking of Brock
I know. Player meeting? I wonder. Yeah. I wonder what
someone in our group chat was too busy making TikToks building IKEA furniture with a shirt on. Was it you that said he probably makes more money off that than he's making?
No, I say he probably makes more money off his friggin' TikToks, YouTubes, and I imagine he's probably got friggin' athletes OF now too than he does in the league.
Yeah.
But I mean, bro, if I had that physique too, I'd be raking in the dough off those social media sites as well. He's probably making an extra like friggin' $1 a year off his social media.
Obviously, like I love Kevin Fiala. Like I wish he was still.
Oh yeah,
fun player. It's just kind of like if you didn't hear what we're talking about, he was healthy scratch last night for LA's game because he missed a player meeting. So I poked some fun at it, being like, Liam O'Brien / Danil Yurov and Brock Faber. That's who we got. And Brock Faber just like had a fight and an assist, and runner up to the Calder last year, and like already had like early Norris sleeper conversation.
I know on one of our flight series, if you guys haven't checked out our YouTube channel yet, Hoppy and I have been going to various breweries, and we're gonna have to invite Brett to one of the next ones here. We've been going to various breweries across and around the cities. We sit down with either the head brewer or the owner, manager, whoever wants to sit down and talk some hockey with us, and they present us with a flight. We drink the beer, we talk about it, and then we tie in a hockey topic to each beer. And on I believe it was the Back Channel Brewing one. So our second flights, which you can still find on the channel, we'll be posting the individual segments, the individual beers and hockey segments later this week and next week as well. The topic for that one was doomsday destinations for Kirill Kaprizov. And I think it was Hoppy that said LA, if they're going to trade him and bring home Kevin Fiala, baby, and some. But anyways, we won't dive into that. Go check it out for context. YouTube, Brett, and if you want to make a comment on that next episode, that's a fun one. That was a fun one.
That's funny. Just like the thought of like, we lost Kevin to pay Kirill, and now like.
But then we brought back Kevin, a first-round pick, and some other prospect too. How are you? But anyways, that was a fun conversation, especially because one of the owners of Back Channel is Nick Letty's uncle, Josh Letty, and so he's very much into hockey as well. So like some of the breweries we go to, like they don't know hockey like us, and they just can't have these deep conversations. So Hoppy and I will kind of just like we'll film all the beer stuff, and then we'll do our hockey talk, and then just kind of like edit it all together. But with Josh, it was easy. We just like sat there and was like, all right, beer, hockey, let's go. And it was a really fun one. And if you guys have not gone out to Back Channel Brewing out there on Lake Minnetonka in Mound. But anyways, they got a nice space there. I should know that. I don't know why I blanked there. And then we also went to 9 Mile and Lupulin, and we got another one coming soon, guys. So there you go, a little humble plug to one of our new series. It's just been a lot of fun. But Brett, you also have something to plug.
Yeah, so I do have a newsletter now on Substack. This comes out. Hopefully, my goal is to get it out every Monday, as long as my schedule on Monday evenings allows it. But it's just a bunch of random topics, mostly related to analytics. So a lot of what we pull for this show will actually come out of this newsletter. So I'll talk about it in there, and then we'll talk about more in detail on here. But we'll talk just kind of different trends that we're seeing, like fun facts. Like we'll talk like every so often do like 3 stars of the week based on PCS, all that kind of stuff. This week we talked it was about top 6 forwards and like the offense being sustainable. So exactly kind of what we talked about today. I think I had a blurb in there about Goudreau. I think I talked a little bit about Chisholm and Merrill. John Merrill's another guy who I didn't talk about tonight. I could have, but then a trifecta of Merrill, Goudreau, and Johansson all getting praise from me. But the gist of that is those two had actually been playing extremely well defensively. Like my guess is I think maybe that was the pairing that was going out with the Foligno line. And they were kind of reaping some of the benefits of that, but like they were playing some pretty good hockey. So
Bogosian looked good with him too. So as much as I want to see Chisholm like succeed, because like I'm a fan, I like his play. It's like, look, if the Wild trust Merrill and he's playing fine, fuck it. As long as he's not playing bad, I'm okay.
Yeah, I mean they got seven defensemen. You're at least like not like dreading having to play one of them. Like, could the wheels fall off from Merrill at any minute? Absolutely. Because last time I did say nice things about him, and the next game he went out and had like his worst game of the year. So I tread carefully because I've noticed it happens a lot. The minute I'm like, John Merrill's okay again, then he just sucks. So I'm like, I'm biting my tongue now. It's like if I say it, we're gonna get torched. He's gonna be like a -3 next game. So I'm not gonna delve into it too much.
We're just waiting for his Kulikov arc. Where he goes from being streaky and bad to just solid and a Stanley Cup winner.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There you go.
For sure. Yeah, they'll get put on waivers and someone claims them and it'll be like their number 4 defenseman when they win the cup. It'll be like Edmonton or something weird.
Yeah. If only Chisholm was that to us.
Yeah. The other fun thing I did in that newsletter this week, and I think I'm going to do it. So we're like basically like 9-ish, 10%-ish way into the season. So I did what are the players' 82 game paces right now?
Oh, nice.
And I think Kaprizov, like this is prior to last night, which he had 3 more points last night.
Yep.
He was on like 156 point pace or something.
I said it last night. I said this is his year to put up Kucherov numbers, baby. Let's go. 140 points, 145 points.
Yeah, I actually like what is his pace now? I gotta look at what does he have this year? It's absurd. He's got 6 straight multi-point games.
Well, you know what's crazy is a lot of people who like a lot of my friends from back home and some of my friends on the City Life Project who like watch hockey as well, mostly degenerate gamblers, but we love you guys anyways. They've even started to like message me like, look, man, we knew he was good. We didn't think he was this good. And I was like, he's not even scoring a lot right now. And you're saying,
yeah,
like he is incredible. And like I say, he'll weave through like 3 guys and the puck will be broken up. And it's like, okay, the first line was shut down, but it's like he brought the puck into the zone. And yeah, it's wild. He's
on
unreal.
Pace for 46 goals, 118 assists, and he's right now averaging 2 points a game. So that'd be 164 points. Like, dude,
that's not even out of the realm of possibility, though.
It's like there have been games like where he's noticeably dominant. Like last night, it wasn't like Kaprizov. Obviously had some great plays, but it wasn't like
it wasn't his best game.
Yeah, like there wasn't shifts where he was like buzzing all over the place. He put up 3 points.
I know.
And he had 7 shots on goal. Like it's just
I
like,
know one was an empty net, but still, like, whatever.
yeah, like he's playing just unbelievably well right now. Like every game, except for he said 2 games with 0 shots, and in both of those games he had 2 assists. Otherwise, he's had 3, 4, 4, 6, 2, 3, 7. Like he's either putting pucks on net or putting it on a platter for his teammates. Like
teams are shutting him down, and he's still finding a way to get points, not necessarily score, but get points, which is absolutely insane, man. He's
power play points in 6 out of the 9. Has only been a minus in 1 of the games. Has been a plus in all but 3 of them. Hasn't taken a penalty. Like there's not a lot else he could be doing right now.
Yeah, what more can you ask for? Oh, but that's oh my god. I know we're getting to the end of the show here, but like what more can he do is what his agent's gonna say.
Yeah.
Or his agent's probably already saying as he's licking his chops right now. Probably
he's like, oh, if you could have just waited to go on this heater in like April.
Yeah, I know.
But
I mean
he still could at this point. So he could, like, crazy stretch. But like regression candidate for sure. Like, but regression for him is going to be like, I use a point per game or 1.5 instead of 2 points. Like,
oh, Kaprizov hit 100 points. Boo.
2, 3, 4.
Oh, but yeah, we'll obviously continue to be on like Kaprizov watch later in the season and just talk about what we think is going to happen based on the things we read, what Russo is able to share, as well as, I mean, there's going to be so much coverage around Kaprizov staying or leaving Minnesota, right? So we're gonna exhaust that just like every other probably outlet is as well. Speaking of Michael Russo, he did appear on Fellowship of the Rink today, the episode that dropped today. So if you haven't checked it out on YouTube, check it out. If you haven't checked it out wherever you get your podcasts, check it out as well. As always, we are live here 8 p.m. Central every Wednesday. Podcast drops on the Sota Pod podcast feed every Friday, bright and early. So if you missed us, if you just joined the live stream here and you're like, oh no, like I like listening to you guys live, or I won't be able to watch it tomorrow or whatever, don't worry. Friday we got you covered. First thing in the morning on the Sota Pod feed. All right, Brett, that's all I got.
Yeah, that's all I got. Let's see what we got coming up here before our next show. No, it's
we
like
got a few games actually. We got a few games.
Well, they're in a stretch where it's like not a lot of games though. It was like 5
or 2. We got two.
Yeah, it was like the 5 and 16 days. So it'll be 3. They got Tampa Bay tomorrow, and then Toronto and then LA. So.
I forgot about Tampa, but yeah, I will be streaming the Toronto game, and I think I'll be streaming the LA game as well. But
I think I'm gonna try to get tickets to the LA game. We'll see what the
hell yeah. Hopefully Fiala is
not
not scratched in that one.
Yeah, like the Kings are like probably my like 3rd favorite team. Like I was a huge like Jonathan Quick fan. So
they're gonna say Drew Doughty.
No,
isn't
like
he your favorite player?
He's the only reason I can't like fully cheer for them all the time is because I hate Drew Doughty. But like I love huge, like obviously I've already talked, love Fiala. I'm a big fan of like Quentin Byfield and some of the like Brant Clark and some other like young players they have there. So like I like the Kings, so it'd be fun to go watch both of them. So
it's funny because like even Vancouver fans hate Drew Doughty because just like
just a
divisional rival. Yeah, and he's like, but put it this way, I can never hate him because he helped Canada win gold at the Olympics. Even when he was partying the night before and got to the rink, I think it was 35 minutes before warmups, he still put up a couple points and helped Canada win gold a couple times now. So I'm sorry, I still can't hate him.
Yeah. Well, see, I can root for LA like all year this year because I think he's out for. Unfortunately, I don't like wishing injury on anyone, but he's like out for this season. I think so.
That's true.
Womp womp.
Oh man. All right, man. Well, this was a fun one.
Yeah.
All right. Last word goes to you as always.
Yeah. We'll see you next week.